Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of #Onward Lebanon, a show airing monthly here on Lebanon Channel 6. I am your host, Todd Yohey, and I serve the Lebanon community as Superintendent of Schools. #Onward Lebanon is designed to provide viewers with an insight into the Lebanon schools, its people, its students, and its programming. And joining me today for this special show is Mark Graler. Mark serves as the curriculum director for the Lebanon City School District, but more importantly for today's conversation, Mark has been very involved in the decision making and the programming and the things we've put in place for reopening schools in August. And so Mark, welcome to #Onward Lebanon.
Thank you very much.
Today I want to spend some time just talking about our reopening plans.
Sure.
And it's been a interesting summer, to say the least.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the summer brings with it no students and no teachers, but usually the summer we spend involved in getting ready for the next school year. Well, first closing out the school year that just ended, and then putting plans in place for the following school year, and oftentimes even planning, a couple of years out for school, and looking at courses and classes, and interviewing and hiring new teachers and new staff members and so forth. But this summer, of course, brought the added challenges of
New challenges, yes.
COVID-19 and all of the changes that we've experienced since last March.
Right.
And so we've had to make a lot of decisions, and many of those decisions have come about with limited information. And so we made a decision pretty early on in this process that we were going to make ourselves aware of the research. We were going to make ourselves aware of state orders and local orders, but when it came time to make final decisions, we were going to do what was best for Lebanon students and staff and the Lebanon community. And so we've had a lot of meetings around this table and Zoom early on, and other discussions where, we started putting things in place to reopen schools.
Right.
And we started that work early. I think our first discussions about reopening school happened maybe even before school was out for the year in May.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So we knew this time was coming, and we just wanted to make sure that we put all of the effort that we could into making good decisions and right decisions, and more importantly, safe decisions. So we're going to spend a little time talking about that.
Sounds good.
I think people are probably interested in what our data shows right now. We conducted a couple of surveys over the summer, and we want to thank all of the parents who cooperated because it was very helpful in formulating our plan. We put out a survey early about people's intention. Given what they knew at that time, did they intend to send their kids back to school, or would they prefer an online option?
Right.
And we got some great data back from that. And we had, I think, over 4,000 responses, which is unheard of. When we have about 5,400 students in the district, so that was a phenomenal response. And then, of course, just recently we sent out the survey about making a commitment.
Yeah, time to choose.
Time to choose. Are you sending your kids back to school, or are you going to enroll them in the online program? And we asked people to commit for the first semester because we don't have the resources to let people move in and out of those two platforms. With staffing and the other costs associated with that, and logistics and licensing and so forth. So last Friday was the deadline for that. I want to thank everybody who gave us their decision. by late Friday. We know for some of you it was an agonizing decision, and it would have been for me as a parent. My kids are all grown now, but had I faced that decision, it really, I know, was very difficult and weighed heavily on people's minds. And trust me, nobody's going to judge judge you on what your decision was. And so we do have a few stragglers that we're trying to get answers from, and you're working hard on that.
Right.
But let's let people know right now what our data is showing.
Sure. So when we surveyed in June, we had the responses you mentioned told us about 10% of students would be using option 2. And now that we actually have commitments, it's more like 12%. So we're looking at about 640 students participating in option 2 right now, and about 5,200 coming back to school.
And you mentioned the options. Option 1 was coming back to school for in-class, face-to-face. Option 2 is the entire online program. And so that early surveying shows that it was pretty accurate.
Right.
We were
pretty close.
We were using 90%, 10%, 90 returning and 10 online as sort of the estimate based on that surveying. And right now we're at about 88% to 12%. Now we do expect the online numbers to increase a little bit for a couple of reasons. One, if the surge in cases continues, there may be some parents who want to change their mind, and we'll have to have that discussion. We're not sure we'll be able to honor that, but certainly if people are thinking about that, it may be something they want to contact us about.
Yeah, and they should contact me directly about that.
So they should contact Mark directly, and we'll make sure we get your contact information to Channel 6 so they can put it up on the screen for folks. And the other reason why we expect that to increase is that just today, and today is July 14th that we're taping this, just today we've reached capacity of what we consider to be a safe number for class sizes and building occupancy. So what that means is that anybody who registers new students starting tomorrow will be automatically placed in the online model into option 2. So that should be comforting to parents who are sending their kids back, knowing that our intent is not to overcrowd classrooms. Our classrooms are going to be somewhere 23 to 25 students, which is what we've told people. And we'll distance them as best as we can in the classrooms. And our classrooms are going to look different. The layout in the classroom with desks spread apart, is going to be much different. But know that if anybody registering a new student starting tomorrow, they will be placed in the online programming. And maybe, talk about our understanding of the stress that places on a family that wasn't planning for it.
Well, sure. I mean, families have a lot of considerations around whether parents are working, childcare considerations, and we recognize that learning, perhaps without thinking ahead about that a student needs to be in option 2 would be kind of a problem that a family would need to work through. And so I think it's important families know that in option 2, there's no requirement to be doing schoolwork at a certain time of day. And so, if a student maybe is a little bit younger and needs some parent help, that can happen in the evening, on a weekend. It doesn't matter. We're not expecting students to be like sitting at a computer for a certain number of hours each day.
Yeah. So I think it is important that people know that we understand that family circumstances may not allow a child to be doing schoolwork during the traditional school day. It may need to wait until parents are home from work, as you mentioned, maybe a weekend. We also have an expectation that our online facilitators, who will be Lebanon teachers, also will work with families and have an understanding that their family dynamics just don't allow for what would be a traditional model.
There'll be absolutely as much flexibility in option 2 as possible for families.
We understand that decision is going to be upsetting for some people, but we just cannot risk the safety of our students and staff by overcrowding classrooms and our buildings and other areas of the buildings. So you've had an opportunity to look at the VLA curriculum, the Virtual Learning Academy curriculum and instruction. It's a program that's been around for many years. We've used it in other circumstances with Lebanon students, the non-traditional type of students, alternative school, credit deficient students, students who just couldn't attend school for some reason, maybe it's a mental health issue or something. Injury. So we've had an injury. So we've had success with the VLA, and we know that it works, and we know that it's a quality product. I think parents and students should be pretty happy with it. But can you talk just a little bit about the VLA and maybe what a parent student can expect? Sure.
So in VLA, there'll be, with some exceptions, all the same courses that students would have during the school day. So, for a student in, let's say, like grades K through 6, they're going to have math and English and social studies and science. And each of those courses is broken up into units. And there are 18 units for each semester. So basically, students will work their way through those units in each course kind of as they want to. We'll provide some general guidance around what pacing should look like. We do want students to have 9 units in each course complete at the end of first quarter, and then the second 9 at the end of the semester. But it doesn't have to be 1 unit a week if it doesn't work out for the family to be that way. And inside of each unit are all the materials the students need to read or view or activities to do, assessments to complete. Everything to learn the content of that unit is available in the platform, and they can reach out to their teacher in the platform. Parents also have access to the platform to be able to monitor and see everything going on, including communication between the staff and the students. So it will be nice for parents who had the experience of remote learning last spring, when we were kind of asking people to look in lots of different places to get information from us, that those in option 2 using VLA will have really a one-stop location for every possible kind of school or learning related need. So that would be nice.
And it's probably a good time to point out that the online experience with VLA is not anything like what we did in the spring. In the spring, this all came about in a couple of days, and we had to make some quick decisions. I think our teaching staff did a wonderful job. I think our kids and parents did a great job. But there should be a higher expectation from parents and students at this point in time about what we can deliver online. And I think we have found that with the VLA option, the option 2. And I know I've heard some concerns from parents that if their child is in the online experience, they're afraid that they're going to be missing parts of the curriculum that might be taught in class. Can you address that concern?
Yeah, I think parents should know that both what we teach in buildings and what is in the VLA platform is all written to Ohio's learning standards. So the courses, while they might go about covering those standards a little differently, still students coming out on the end of each semester should be at about the same place. I'll also add that as we have students come and go, like if they move from a different district or they want to switch from online to in-person in January, we have a lot of experience with students making transitions like that, and we're really good at figuring out if there's a gap that needs to be filled there. So I don't have any concern that a student using VLA in the fall would come back at a disadvantage in January if they were to continue with the same course in person.
So you mentioned the transition in January, and you're referring to the fact that we've asked parents to commit for first semester. So we anticipate at this point in time that somewhere maybe the beginning of December or sometime before the first semester ends, we're going to be able to provide an opportunity for students to move platforms, either return to school from the online or move from in class to the online program. And I say that we're anticipating that because I do think we need to be honest that there is an outside chance that we would have to make the decision just to stay status quo.
Sure.
You know, it really depends on what the world looks like, right, in December,
Right.
and
Yes.
you know, what our resources look like,
Right.
the success of both the in-class and the online.
Right.
There's just a lot of unknowns, and so we're trying our best not to paint ourselves into a corner
Sure.
where, you know, a decision we make today in July doesn't make any sense at all in
Right.
December.
Right, and I think that, you know, like you said, we'll be reaching out to families, you know, November, December, trying to get an idea, just like we did this summer, about what people are thinking for the second semester. Because it really does take weeks of work to plan staffing and resources to kind of make all this happen. So we have to ask several weeks ahead of when that change would happen. And certainly we hope to be able to accommodate what people want us to be able to do.
And you mentioned staffing. Interestingly enough, we just had a staffing meeting this
did,
morning
yeah.
to take a look at our data and then our staffing, because we obviously have to staff both the online program and the in-class. And what we know is that we have some staff members who are unable to return to the in-class model because of either their own health issues or there's a health issue with a member of their family.
Right.
So they don't want to carry the virus home. And it appears, although it's sort of preliminary from this morning, it does appear that we're going to be able to do a pretty good job of matching
I think so.
the teachers who cannot return to school
Right.
as online instructors with the students who are taking online courses. And I'm happy to see that, because that certainly was a big question
Right.
mark for us about how would the data align with staffing.
Right. Yeah, because we want, I mean, just like we want families to have the environment that works best for them, we'd love to be able to offer that to staff as well. So it looks like we'll be pretty close to being able to do that.
Sure. And so we are, you know, following right now in our plan safety protocols that have been developed in collaboration with the other schools in Warren County, and more importantly, in collaboration with the Warren County Health District.
Right.
So the Health District has been step by step with us through this planning process, and will continue to be. And what our plan looks like right now, and is all available on our website at lebanonschools.org. In fact, there's a separate reopening school tab, and you can find all the information that you want there. So I don't think we need to go into a lot of detail about that. But I think it's important for people to understand that it's fluid. It's likely to change with changes, you know, in what's happening in society. So, for example, I know that, you know, surrounding counties around us are in a higher stage level, the governor's, you know, COVID stages.
Right.
And, you know, an anticipation that Warren County may move to a higher level as well. And should that happen, there probably will be some changes to our plans.
Of course.
And, you know, but again, I think it's important for people to know that we're not just sort of out here on an island making these decisions in a vacuum. We are working with other school districts in the county and the Warren County Health District to guide those decisions. And you know, I think that's been an important part of the planning process.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, we're not experts in health, right? So we rely on the Warren County Health District to help us in that area, and I think they've been a great partner.
I would say that probably the number one hot button that we have to deal with should come as no surprise to anyone, and it's about face coverings.
Sure.
And you know, whether face coverings will be required, when will they be required, and I think the best answer to that question right now is we believe face coverings are going to be required at certain points during the day.
Right.
What we don't know is when exactly, because I fully anticipate we're going to get some additional guidance about face coverings, and it's going to deal with number of cases in the county, if it's considered a hot spot, and so on. You know, we still have a month before.
That's what I was going to say. It's really hard to know now where we're going to be.
And so, you know, what I can tell people is that we do expect all of our students and staff to have a face covering.
Right.
When they will have to wear them, we're just going to have to continue to evaluate and make decisions about as things change here in Warren County or maybe throughout the state.
Sure.
Right now, we're saying you can expect to wear a face covering at some points during the day. If you're going to ride the school bus, for example.
Right.
If you're riding the school bus, everyone has to wear a face covering.
Right.
And by a face covering, mask, face shield, the gaiter, pull-up types, all acceptable types of face covering. I know we've had some questions from parents who a student has asthma, and they can wear a face covering, which I understand should not trigger an asthma episode, and so that is the number one question I think that we get.
And I was actually talking to a parent on the phone last week who mentioned that while we were speaking, she actually was having her students wear a mask at home for an hour just to give them a little bit of practice with what that feels like, because in a lot of cases we're wearing them just for short amounts of time while we're dashing into the grocery or wherever we are. So I thought that was a really good idea.
Yeah, and we have the face covering supplies here at school if a student needs one.
Right.
We anticipate and actually hope that most parents will provide a face covering for their child, only because we want the parent and child comfortable with the face covering.
Right.
And so, one that we hand them may not be to their liking.
Yeah.
But we certainly have those, and we will supply them if needed. But we would hope that people would, work with their child on something that's comfortable and be able to do that. Also, in case a student forgets it or loses it, which all of those things can happen. That probably will happen.
Sure.
And is there anything else that this is a large subject. My hope today was to try and touch on some, sort of the big picture of this. Anything that I didn't ask about?
I don't know. I think I would just like to say that we're working really hard to do our best, to make sure that the environment at school is safe and conducive for learning, and to make sure that the online environment, keeps kids moving where they should be moving educationally. So I hope that people will be patient with us as we make some stumbles, because that's possible, and just reach out to us and share what they're thinking. I think we're pretty receptive to hearing that kind of information.
It is a daunting task, and we're open and transparent about the fact that it's not going to be perfect.
Right.
We are liable to stumble along the way, and we'll have to work with students and train students and staff on the safety protocols and how do you wash your hands and
how often?
Maintaining face coverings and those types of things.
Right.
We know that has to be part of our program. There's going to have to be a bite taken out of instructional time for safety training and protocols.
And we're doing that with staff that first week. We're delaying the start of school until the 17th for students so we can work with staff. And I'm sure a large part of those first few days of school with the students will be focused on how is school different now compared to when you left.
And I'm glad you mentioned that date change in case people hadn't heard or seen that. School for all students, K-12, will begin on Monday, August 17th.
That's right.
Teachers and staff, however, start on the 10th.
Right.
And so we will be working with them that entire week on what to expect when kids return, the safety protocols, other trainings that need to take place in order for us to do this as safely as possible. I also think that anybody who has picked option one to send their kids back to school, and as you said, it's 4,800 students?
Yes, I think I might have misspoke earlier. I think we are at I think I said 5,200. It's 4,800.
Yeah, 4,800 students or so. That that comes with a certain level of risk.
Sure.
Just like visiting any place now, visiting a store, going to the beach, going to Kings Island, which is now reopened.
Right.
That all comes with a risk that wasn't there in the past.
Right.
And so, you just need to understand that. We're going to take all the steps that we can to make it the safest environment as possible,
Right.
but, we cannot offer a zero risk
No, we can't.
at school option.
Right.
We do expect to communicate a lot with parents when we have issues that arise at school. So, for example, if a student tests positive or a staff member tests positive, we will be communicating that to our parents. We cannot communicate personal information
Sure.
about those individuals, but if there's a student in your child's class that tests positive, you'll get a notification from the school. What we don't know is the exposure and contact. That contact tracing is performed by the health department,
Right.
and then they will let parents know the child was exposed.
Right.
We may find ourselves in a situation where we learn of a positive test, and in order to let the contact tracing take its course, we may need to not have that class for a day or two.
Right.
So parents should prepare themselves that you may receive notification from the school that your child is not to report to school for the next 2 days,
Right.
or until contacted, which allows us to assure that they're not exposed,
Right.
and that it allows the health department to do their contact tracing.
Right.
So hopefully we'll be able to have better answers to that and explain it as we get closer to the
Yeah.
start of school. But I'm just trying to think of things that parents should be thinking of in terms of childcare and working with your employer and those
Sure.
types of things. And hopefully employers, as school starts, employers are understandable with parents, and that these
I hope so,
situations
yeah.
might come up. Well, I want to thank you for
Sure.
sitting in today
Thank you.
with me and talking a little bit about our reopening plans. Again, if you would like to look at our current reopening plans, you can find those on our website at LebanonSchools.org. Just click on the reopening link, and that'll take you to all of our information. I will tell you though to read it for what it is, which is right now, and that parts of that plan are likely to change before we actually open school on the 17th. Thank you for watching #Onward Lebanon, which airs monthly here on Lebanon Channel 6. To learn more about the Lebanon City School District, follow us on Facebook at Lebanon City Schools, or check out our website at LebanonSchools.org. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of those around you.